So what if the real solution to modern American burnout isn't some new productivity app, but a 2,000-year-old text? Today, we're going to dig into how ancient Taoist wisdom can actually help us handle the insane pressures of ambition, competition, and that constant need to hustle. Let's get into it. Let's kick things off with a quote that's over 2 millennia old, but wow, does it feel like it was written yesterday? The disease of men is that they neglect their own fields and go to weed the fields of others. Just let that sink in for a second. Sound a little familiar? I mean, that's the endless scroll, right? It's the constant comparison game, the obsession with what your competition is doing, what everyone else has. It's an ancient diagnosis for a very, very modern problem, where we're always looking out there instead of in here at our own work. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to define a problem, the hustle and the void. Then we're taking a trip through the heart of American ambition. We're talking Silicon Valley, Detroit, and Wall Street to see how these old ideas actually work in the real world. And then we'll wrap it all up by building a toolkit for your own American Tao. So first up, the hustle and the void. You know this feeling. It's that relentless drive for more. The next promotion, the next funding round, the next big thing. It's a life lived entirely in the future. A constant chase that, honestly, can leave you feeling pretty empty right now. And this quote it absolutely nails it. Anxiety is basically living in a future that isn't even real yet. Peace, that's about being right here, in the present. The problem is, so much of our ambition is fueled by that very anxiety about what's next. And that's the trap we're trying to get out of. All right, let's head west to Silicon Valley, the land of move fast and great things. It is the absolute epicenter of speed and disruption. But what if the real secret to building something that lasts isn't about speed at all, but about radical patience? Think about it. Every ambitious startup has this monumental goal, right? To disrupt an industry, change the world, become a unicorn. They're not just trying to build a company. Metaphorically, they're trying to move a mountain. And from the outside, that looks completely impossible. But here's the Taoist secret. You don't move a mountain with one single heroic push that just burns you out. Nope. You move it one small stone at a turn. The ambition is still massive, but the approach, it's humble, it's patient, and it's actually sustainable. So what does that look like in startup terms? Well, that first stone you carry, that's your minimum viable product. The next stone, that's your first batch of user feedback. Every little consistent action, shipping code, talking to customers, fixing a bug, that's another stone. You just keep at it, and before you know it, the mountain actually starts to move. Okay, so from the new world of tech, let's jump over to the old guard, Detroit, a city that really embodies American industrial might and the painful reality of what happens when you get disrupted. This is a huge lesson in adaptation. This is such a powerful warning for anyone who's on top of their game. Your sword, that's whatever gives you your edge. It's your star product, your core skills, your business model. But if you lead it in the salt water of a changing market, even the best sword in the world is going to rust. So this really lays out the choice, doesn't it? The rigid sword that's coming to the past. It's saying this is how we've always done it, right? Up until it shatters. But the flexible path, it bends with the environment. It doesn't just survive, it evolves and actually gets stronger. Now, this is such a critical reframe for anyone facing a massive disruption. What feels like the painful, catastrophic end of your industry or your job or your company, it's often just the start of a necessary transformation. If not death, it's metamorphosis. All right, our final stop is Wall Street, a world built on chaos, volatility, and the dangerous illusion that you can control it all. The key to surviving here isn't being rigid or forceful. It's about being completely and totally fluid. This insight is from Sun Tzu's The Art of War, but it is just as true for markets as it is for battlefields. Water's superpower is its formlessness. It doesn't smash into obstacles, it flows around them, it adapts, it yields, and by doing that, it overcomes pretty much everything. And yeah, financial markets are the definition of no constant conditions. They're in constant flux. Trying to force a rigid, unchanging strategy onto that kind of chaos is just a recipe for disaster. The best traders, just like the best generals, are like water. They adapt to the terrain as it is, not as they wish it was. And here it is. This is the reward for that fluidity. When you stop fighting the chaos and you start flowing with it, you start to see the world in a totally different way. A market crash isn't just a threat, it's also an opportunity. Volatility isn't just risk, it's a field of potential. So we've seen how this ancient wisdom can apply to tech, industry, and finance. But now, let's bring it home. How can you take these exact same principles and build your own American Dao? Here it is, your toolkit. Number 1, move those mountains one small stone at a time with patient, consistent action. 2, keep your sword from rusting by always adapting. 3, be like water, especially when things get chaotic. And finally, maybe the most important rule of all, bringing us right back to where we started, read your own field. Focus on your path, right here, right now. You know, in a culture that is obsessed with more, this is a truly radical idea. What if real success isn't about getting more stuff, but about being content? The beautiful paradox here is that when you stop desperately chasing the world, you finally feel like you own it. Let's end on this powerful, kind of mind-bending idea. We usually think of success as adding things, and your skill, a bigger title, more money. But what if real growth comes from letting go? Letting go of a rigid career path, or a limiting belief you had about yourself, or an old version of who you thought you were supposed to be. So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. As you're out there chasing your ambitions, what are you clinging to that's actually holding you back? What part of you do you need to let go of to become who you're truly meant to be?